Today on Mental Health News Radio, Kristin welcomes new podcaster Dennis Berry to the show. Dennis Berry is a certified life coach with an expertise in life mastery. He's been sober since April 8th, 2003. During that time, he became a successful businessman, athlete, and family man. His journey in recovery helped him find his mission in life, which is to help others achieve inner peace and success, and to master every area of their lives. Dennis knows what it's like to be helpless and hopeless with no positive direction, and he can teach you how to climb out of that. You won't want to miss this episode, and make sure to catch his new podcast, The Funky Brain, on Mental Health News Radio Network. Thanks for tuning in.
I wanna try and take in all the highs, embrace them for more than a moment's time. I want you, please don't move when I push you away. I know I contradict myself some days, but will you ride the lows with me?
Welcome to Mental Health News Radio. I am your host, Kristin Sunanta Walker. Our goal is to help discussions about mental health be a regular part of your daily life, no different than discussions about physical health. Mental illness can be a topic of discussion under the umbrella of mental health, along with so many other topics. This show is the original program on mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com. Our network of shows are played in over 180 countries and cover more topics under that umbrella than you can possibly imagine. We were talking about mental health long before it became cool and popular to talk about, and thank goodness it has become so popular. We have incredible guests, advocates, patients, experts, people. Thank you for tuning in, and enjoy our intro music, a song named Lows, written by Aubrey Toon. You can find her music at www.aubreytoone.com.
That night when I started praying, I cried. Will you ride the lows with me? Will you ride the lows with me? When I'm down, my vision gets blurry.
Dennis, thank you so much for coming on Mental Health News Radio.
Thank you, Kristin. Super excited to be here and talk with you for such a great cause, great platform that you have here. I really appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we were just saying before we got on to do the show that it's really interesting to be, in the field of mental health as a life coach, like you are, as a psychiatrist, psychologist, mental health counselor, because, these are first responders too, and they're at their, limits. And so they're like, where do we go now? And they're trying to manage. I've had so many of them say to me, I have total imposter syndrome because I'm losing it. And yet I have 8 patients today and they're losing it. So what do you think about all that?
Yeah, I think currently I'm doing fine emotionally for myself, but I can totally understand that point of view. I now have, anywhere from 4 to 8 clients in a day as well. And you have to be on all the time.
Yeah.
And I have to be listening and tuned into, and they're different. So you go from one scenario to the next and the next, and I have to be tuning into what they're talking about. And they're all a little bit different, but I could totally understand, at the end of the day, I'm exhausted and I haven't really moved very far from where I started physically, but emotionally you're up and down and all over the place. And you really feel for these people. And I totally understand. And I've been on the other side of it too, where I'm the client or I'm the patient and I am the one unloading. So, it's a crazy time right now, but I think we're all going to get through it stronger people eventually.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree. We're definitely going to get through it much, much stronger, but man, the getting through it. I just had one of my closest friends call me today and tell me she has COVID.
Ooh.
And I have 4 people that were in my life that passed away from this, and my stomach just dropped. She's doing okay, thank goodness, and she does have underlying health issues. But it was just interesting to just have her tell me this, and then my reaction to it was just stomach drop, and then you got to keep going on with your day.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. And I haven't been affected. I haven't lost anybody to COVID, but I know it's out there. I know people, we're all affected differently, just like with the mental health, our physical health, we're all affected differently. And I think the important thing is the awareness, and to say, you know what, I'm not feeling well physically, emotionally, whatever. I'm overwhelmed. I am taxed out and I don't know what to do. And then that's the awareness. And then the next piece is to reach out for help, to let your guard down and ask for help. And I think a lot of people get into these deep, dark places because they don't ask for help. They try to figure it out on their own for a little too long, and then they get stuck. And you have to dig out of that deep hole. And I think the sooner that, hopefully it's like listening to something like this and hearing somebody say something like that. Oh, it's okay. I can reach out, and please do. As soon as you get that awareness that I need to talk to somebody and it's okay, try to do that as soon as you can. And, for somebody like me, I offer a free consultation. So just call. And that wasn't a plug or anything. It's like, just call. Like, we'll talk for free. Don't worry about the finances right now. Get the help that you need.
How do you, I know you're a life coach, as the listeners heard before we started talking. So how did you wind up, going in this direction in your life?
Well, so I'm 48 years old, and for the first 13 years of my adult life, I was a crazy maniac, partying, ski racing, ski bum, chef guy. And I lived in mountain towns and bounced around the country, living in different places and living the lifestyle that came along with that, with the drugs and the alcohol. And to give you that 30-second version of my whole story is I've been sober since April of 2003, so 17 years as of right now. And when you stop drinking or doing drugs or whatever your addiction is, eating, porn, shopping, whatever your addiction is, it's like, now I have to learn how to cope, because that stuff isn't the problem. It's what I'm using to cope with the real problem, which is my thinking, my coping skills, my life skills. And so I spent years, the first couple of years, I just didn't know how to live. And that was all. And that's hard, 31, 32, 33 years old. And I just don't know how to live well. And so I had to, kind of grunt through some of that, for lack of a better term. And then I just decided to sink my whole life into it, and not only grow for myself, but also take on the training that I needed to help other people. And so I've been doing this for about 15 years. I love helping people. I also, when I stopped drinking, I was 70 pounds overweight, 70 pounds heavier than I am now, and just unhappy and unhealthy. And I had no idea how to fix it all. And I eventually did that. And then I realized with the physical part, if I wanted to continue to live a healthy life of fitness and health, I needed to surround myself with health and fitness. So I became a trainer, and then I learned about diet, and I learned about all that. And it's the same thing with life. And if I want to live like a sober, happy, healthy life and continue to grow emotionally, body, mind, and spirit, I needed to surround myself with that emotional well-being. And so I've learned to do that. And I want to live a life of service where I give back what I've been able to learn, because I should have died hundreds and hundreds of times over back in my days.
Yeah, I hear you. The living a life of service is a big one for me too. But tell me what I love the name of your podcast, as you know, the Funky Brain Podcast. So tell me and the listeners, what were your thoughts in coming up with that, and how have you enjoyed doing it?
Sure. Yeah. So over the years, my friends in recovery would say, "Oh, Dennis has funky brain." So that's really where that came from, the Funky Brain podcast. And I wrote a book, and the book is called Funky Wisdom. I was going to call the book Funky Brain, but I like wisdom, and it implies growth. It implies that, um, I done some work and grew to a new level of awareness, which I like to think I have. And some days I struggle with that, but
Right.
so I called the podcast the Funky Brain Podcast, and I'm working on another book called Funky Health. So I'm the funky guy, the funky brand guy. And really what it is kind of like what I talked about already with, it's my thinking, it's getting my thinking and my emotional well-being on track. When you talk about sobriety, people always think about drinking or being sober from drinking or drugs or whatever, but it's really about emotional sobriety. It's about, how do I react to situations in my life when people cut me off on the road, or I don't understand how to have healthy romantic relationships or work relationships or any type of relationships, or when it rains outside, like, how do I handle life's things? And that's where the Funky Brain podcast comes in. It's just, I interview people from all different walks of life, to rock stars and athletes, to other sober people and doctors, and just getting different perspectives on life, on how to navigate through this thing we call life.
Right, exactly. What's your go-to if you're kind of stuck and you need to, that there's a shift? And it's funny, it seems like such an easy thing to make that shift to another state of consciousness, to where you can actually have hope, or where you can get to somewhere where you can pull out of whatever state you're in. But sometimes it is like as wide as the Grand Canyon. So to get there. So what are some things that you've learned to do for yourself to shift your internal dynamic?
Yeah, beautiful question. Well, first of all, I also have a coach, and I don't think that anybody should be without some sort of coach, mentor, counselor, therapist, whatever fits for you. I'm not trying to sell me on anybody. I want everybody to have an accountability partner in their life that they can turn to when they get overwhelmed, or when there's problems with the relationships or the health or the finances or whatever the problem of the day is. And so I have a coach too, and I talk with him every week, and he's my mentor and my inspiration. But along the way, you learn, like, how do I get through these things? Well, it's really not a huge trick, but a lot of the tools I use are tools I think everybody should use, and that's meditation. It's calming my mind down. The average person has between 60 and 80,000 thoughts every day. That's almost one thought per second. If we can somehow manage some of those useless, harmful thoughts, which a lot of them are, then I have a better chance of getting through the day. And I also read. I read productive, healthy things instead of just social media and politics and things that actually feed my brain instead of suck energy from it. And I exercise, and I take care of my health, and I watch what I eat, and I take supplements that make me feel better. If you're not into that, you don't have to do that. But those are some of the tools. I focus on the body, mind, and spirit, because I think it's a total package. And that's also what I teach my clients as well.
How has it been, for you doing this kind of work? I mean, I know you can use Zoom to talk to anyone anywhere, but you also are a public speaker. And I know a lot of public speakers, and that part of their business has really changed. So how about for you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So there is no more public speaking, first of
Right.
all. And we focus I have a team that does like marketing, and we just shifted everything right into coaching. So it used to be, some speaking, some coaching, like 50-50. And now it's just all coaching, and for the unforeseeable future. And you know what? I'm fine with that right now. It's been feeding my soul. I'm there for people that need somebody to talk to. And what I just said is really important, the feeding my soul piece. And there's so many people that are, that are overwhelmed and if you're laying in bed with the sheets over your head in the morning, afraid to get out of bed to go to this job that you hate doing, it's because you're not supposed to be doing that. So I've been very fortunate in my life to fall into this profession that feeds my soul. So I'm like, when I open my eyes in the morning, I'm excited to see like what I'm going to do today and who I can help, who I get to talk to. And I think that's an important piece of the puzzle too.
I found that too. It's interesting. I never was going to hang a shingle out about doing life coaching, but I've had 3 or 4 people come to me recently, and I've had people come in the past, and I always say no and refer them somewhere else. But these people I know very well, and they came to me and said, kind of like this podcast network, can you do podcasts for us too? And my first response was no, no, no. And then look where we are today. But the same thing with the coaching. And I find that I really like it too, because boy, when you've been through a lot of stuff and you've done a lot of stuff and had the world of judgment against you for all the stuff that you've done, it makes for a good life coach though, because boy, you have a lot of wisdom in there.
Yes, exactly. It's not just book knowledge. Like I didn't just study this chapter and get the piece of paper that says I can handle your problems. Like when I'm sitting there talking to somebody, it's because I've been through it, and I'm going to share with you how I got out of that hole. And it went, and also the other piece of that puzzle is like, we go back into that hole sometimes. We can fall backwards. I can go into a dark place. It's not as dark as it used to be. I can catch it a lot faster. But, when I'm sitting there talking with somebody and they're telling me what they're going through and I'm giving my suggestions, or what I do is I ask a lot of questions and let them guide themselves into those solutions. And when I'm doing that, a lot of lights go off for me, like, oh yeah, I should probably apply that into my life too.
Yeah, exactly. It's really interesting. Instead of saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, I say when the teacher is ready, the students appear.
That's exactly right. It's really funny. We tend to attract into our lives what we need to hear, what we're going through, the solutions that we need. I get those clients all the time, like somebody that's going through a separation. I just went through a separation, really long relationship. And it's been about 6 months now. And I've since attracted like 4 or 5 clients going through divorces right now. And I needed to hear all that. And it's been helping me heal immensely.
Yeah, that part's amazing. I find it interesting that I will get people that'll come to me having a difficult time in their relationship, and they want to work with me and my partner, who I've had in my life for 33 years. And there's no, we're not married. We got divorced years ago and have not done anything the traditional way that you would do a relationship. And yet these are people that know us and have said, oh, can you please help us? And I think that is so funny, because even 10 years ago, we still were getting from our families, oh, you guys just can't get it together. You can't do this, you can't do that. And now those same people are having issues and they're calling us saying, can you help us? How have you made it? And
that's really interesting. What a great story to hear. That's a really great story to hear, because I don't think there is any more real traditional. I think
yeah,
all a little bit different than it used to be. So that's I love hearing that from you. And I think that that's something that a lot of people need to hear. There's no rules.
Yeah, that's what I try to tell people when they're, they're giving me, and I'm sure you hear this too. People they'll start talking and telling you, and they're sharing with you all the boxes they put themselves in. And what you're doing is going, okay, well, let's look at why you think it has to be that way, and that you're not achieving something if it's not that particular way. Can we look at maybe other possibilities just to see? And they're like, oh, because you don't know how tunneled you can get, and how much society or your parents or whoever have taught you that, well, check the boxes of these things. If you have these things in your life, then you're successful. And if you don't, you're not.
Yeah, That's powerful stuff. You know, it used to be decades ago, like when our parents were growing up, and just, you know, 100 years ago, it was like you meet somebody in school, you get married, the guy goes to work somewhere for 30 years, the woman stays home and has babies and keeps the house clean. And that's just the way it was. And that's just not the world anymore. And but some people are still attached to that base, maybe probably because of what our parents told us we were supposed to be like. And when we don't fit into that box anymore, then we feel like this guilt or shame. And then from there, we turn to addictions, like, or distractions, like alcohol or drugs, because I'm not living up to who I think somebody else wants me to be. And, or food addictions, you know, sitting at home feeling like a failure. I'm going to eat this box of cookies or chocolates, or I'm going to go shopping with money I don't have. That's where a lot of these things come from.
And it's been interesting with going on with the pandemic is not everybody, but a lot of people, me included, have gone, you know, back to things that you thought, oh, I thought I was healed in that arena.
Right. Yeah. It goes deep, goes really deep. Yeah, because you don't know how far back you have to go to really like dig these things out and change that old ways of thinking. And it rarely happens on your own. You almost have to have somebody in your, like, that's where a coach or a counselor or therapist, accountability partner comes in to help you see these things. Because you rarely just like get it while you're driving down the road. Oh, I get that now.
Yeah. And I always think about too, how much time we spend distracting ourselves. And in some ways that's good. You know, in some ways it is good to have distractions, not unhealthy ones, obviously, but, you know, work can be a distraction, hanging out with friends, whatever. And there's so fewer distractions now because of the social isolation piece that people, including me, have really had to go, oh boy, yeah, if I'm not doing volunteer work, like I do that with my dogs, doing therapy dog stuff, if I'm not doing that, my mind can be very unfriendly. So how do we figure out how to, you know, work with that to where I can keep a measure on it, which meditation helps tremendously without, because I don't have the same tools I always used to be able to go to. And that's just the way it is right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, first of all, awareness, awesome stuff. I mean, tuning into something like this and listening to us talk is a great way to realize that, one, things aren't going well, and two, they don't have to stay this way.
Right.
So, you know, oh, okay, well, I'm eating too much. I feel like crap. I drank too much last night. I feel like crap. I wasn't good to my kids or my spouse or whatever. And I want to change those things, but you could start changing them right now. So reach out to somebody and ask for help. And if you can't, or continue to watch another podcast, or go sit somewhere and pull up YouTube and do a 5-minute guided meditation, listening to the waves crash, and calm down, and you can reset your day at any time. If you're having a crappy day, and I tell this to people all the time, if you're having a crappy day and it's 11 o'clock in the morning, you know, start your day over. You don't have to wait till tomorrow and give up a whole 16 hours of your life just because you got to wait until Monday to start your day over. You know, start it over right now. You can grab your iPhone, which you're never more than arm's length away from for 24 hours a day, and go sit on the toilet with your phone and pull up YouTube and sit there calmly for 3 minutes and listen to the waves crash, or raindrops, or birds chirping, or whatever makes your heart sing.
Go sit on the toilet. If you're a woman, you can go sit in a chair.
Yeah, go somewhere and start over.
I know. I still marvel at the how long do you need to be in there? But anyway, that's a whole other topic. Again, the partner thing. You know, we have these things where you go, okay, I'm amazed at how really a key for me has been what I don't spend time worrying about anymore in terms of what a relationship is supposed to look like, what a friendship is supposed to look like, what a business relationship is supposed to look like. There's a loosening of the rules around what things are supposed to be. And that's what we're seeing happen outwardly in society. We're having to change everything. What was up is now down and vice versa. So it's really a reflection of, what's going on in the outer is also, what's going on in the inner.
Yes, absolutely. And I one of the things I say is there's no more supposed to's.
Right.
The supposed to's, they're not around anymore. And what I think an important way to approach it, because if you get lost in that things are supposed to be like this, it's like, focus on the journey and not as much the destination. And also do the next right thing. I don't know how I'm going to get there to the end, or what life is supposed to look like, or what my relationship is supposed to look like, what my career is supposed to look like. But what am I doing right now? What's the next right thing I need to do? And, self-care, self-love, self-respect, those are important pieces of the puzzle. Sometimes the next right thing is like, I have to do this or call this person to advance my job or my career or my finances or my relationship. Sometimes the next right thing is like, go get some ice cream. Sometimes it's like, go for a walk and treat yourself well. Do something that feeds your soul, and stay in that and keep doing the next right thing. And when you do a series of next right things, the outcome works out in your favor.
Yeah, I always, you can set yourself up for failure if you make everything be so black and white. Like I used to, or my partner would say, okay, stop trying to climb Mount Everest. Just climb that little hill.
Yeah.
And climb the next hill, because, you do set yourself up for failure in that. Well, if you don't make it all the way to the top of Mount Everest, again, you get to, sabotage yourself and say what a failure you are. And yet, and when we're talking about mental health and depression and anxiety and everything that's going on right now, it could be something as simple as, I did fold half the laundry today, good for me. That's a hill. Or I did walk for 10 minutes today, or I did call about a benefit that maybe I could get on because I'm struggling financially. Those are little hills and they add up. But you have to remember to pat yourself on the back for them. You can't just blow through them like, you're checking off a list. When we're in this state of uncertainty and, all that, you have to stop and go, okay, good. I did get half that laundry done. Good for me. And just keep on going from there. Because if you don't celebrate it, then, you're missing a lot of the will to then do the next small thing.
I love that. That's really important to focus on too. And part of my practice is on focus. And a lot of the overwhelmingness that we talk about, it comes because we're trying to do too many things at one time. And so what I focus on is the one thing. And so that means that any given time, we're focused on just one major goal and not 5. So an example I like to use is like New Year's resolution. Every year, there's these 5 New Year's resolutions. I want to lose weight, make money, quit drinking, have a better relationship, or whatever your resolutions are. And so we try to tackle all those things, these major goals, all at the same time. And 2 weeks later, we're overwhelmed and we're like, well, screw this. I'm going to do this again. And then next New Year's, it's the same 5 resolutions on there. So what I focus on is we work on the one thing, one major goal at a time. And then that's the major goal. Like you said, that's the Mount Everest. But underneath that, we create specific smaller action steps to work on a daily and weekly and monthly basis to get to that major goal. And that way it's manageable. And then we have a sense of achievement along the way. And then we become more confident and more comfortable with ourselves and our place in the world. And then that leads to a lot less depression, anxiety, and fear.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Oh, does it feel, I mean, I can tell that it does, but when you hang up, after a call where you see somebody really get it. And again, I say this to listeners too, and I know this is your philosophy. It's not you and you're healing somebody, you're helping them heal themselves.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah, because I'm not the answer coach. And sometimes it gets frustrating, and especially for people who I first start with, because they'll be like, well, this is what's going on. How do I fix this? And I'm not going to sit here and tell you to do this. I'm not going to say, leave your husband, leave your wife, tell your kids to go sit in a corner, or what, this and that. I'm going to ask you questions. I'm going to say, well, what do you think? What have other successful people done to get to where they are? Like, I want you to become independent and not dependent on me to find solutions to your current issues. And so I lead people through the process to their own solutions, and then they become successful on their own.
Absolutely. There's nothing so helpful in just having someone else help you excavate different perspectives. It doesn't mean that those perspectives are the final one you're going to land on that helps you with this particular issue. It's just, I think what happens with people is, you stop yourself from being able to see other possibilities, even outlandish ones. And it's the act of having a coach help you, okay, look at these other things that are out there. What can you come up with that would be other things? So you go, oh, okay, that's where hope comes in. I have choices. I'm not stuck.
Yeah, absolutely. And a term that I use a lot, it's a real professional, technical term. Google it. People are like, well, what should I do about this? Google it. Find these solutions for yourself. So when you're stuck and you don't have to pay me on a weekly basis, like my goal when somebody comes to me, it's usually because there's some sort of crisis. There's the divorce or the relationship problems, the financial problems, the health problems, the sobriety problems, those things. And the idea is for me to teach you how to become independent. So eventually you won't have to be paying me to talk to me every week. Now, most of my clients stick around for a long time, or sometimes we'll take a break here and there and, just regroup and then get back to a new one thing to work on. But I want you to become independent. So when you get stuck and there's nobody else around, you learn how to find the solutions by yourself.
Right. Oh, that's so true. Well, so people know how to find you. Can you give everybody your website?
Sure. The website, the best way to get everything, my book, my podcast, and book free, your first free session is on dennisberry.com. And from there, you can navigate the waters throughout everything else.
And I want to make sure listeners, it's DennisBerry, like strawberry, dennisberry.com. Dennis, I'm so glad we got introduced, and hopefully at some point you'll have your show on the network. And I'm glad you're out there doing the work that you do.
Thank you, Kristin. And back at you. I really appreciate it. Awesome show, great messages, and you're doing great work. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Mental Health News Radio.
Hi, listeners. I'll make it quick. These are some really cool places that give discounts and other cool things for listeners of Mental Health News Radio Network. If you want to get amazing help with healing from narcissistic abuse, go to healfromanarcissist.com. If you want CBD products that are the best of the best, I use them myself, go to proze.com and use the code mentalhealth20, mentalhealth20. If you want to get daily perk ups that help retrain your brain to think more positively, go to perkupdaily.com. And also, just because this one's fun, snarkycandles.com. I guarantee you'll love them. Snarky with a Y, SNARKY candles.com. And don't forget, if you want to hear all the shows on the network about first responders, you can go to firstrespondernmentalhealthnetwork.com, and all of our shows that focus on narcissistic abuse, narcissisticabusehealingnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, and back to the show.
But will you ride the low, low, lows with me? Will you ride the low, low, lows with me?
One thing you can always count on at Mental Health News Radio Network and my show is that there will always be dogs around. Why? They are natural healers, excellent for your mental health. The original therapy dog Miles has something to say in just a moment. For now, please check out all of our amazing shows at mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com and all your favorite podcast apps. Until next time, I'm Kristin Sananta-Walker, and thank you for listening.
And I can ride the low, low, lows with me. I can ride the low, low, lows with me. Till my vision clears up perfectly. I can ride the low, low, lows with me.
Good boy.